care what they may know. I don't care where they may go. I don't care what they may know. Jesus is just alright. Oh yeah. Jesus, he's my friend. Jesus, he's my friend. He took me by the hand. He let me fall from this land. Jesus, he's my friend. Jesus is just alright with me. Jesus is just alright, oh yeah. Jesus is just alright with me. Jesus is just alright. I don't care what they may say. I don't care what they may do. I don't care what they may say. Jesus is just alright, oh yeah.
It is Edge Radio Australia. We're doing the greater wealth thing. And of course, the first thing that Travis says is something about sexy legs. Well, it's always a great start here at 1 p.m. We do this every single week, every Monday. Derek, you come in here to bring the decorum, the information, okay, the class. We'll go with the class.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah, look, I really appreciate it. Of course, Travis Carter, you come in to destroy it all. So
normally you've got me muted, so like I didn't think, and I looked out the camera to see what was coming through, and because obviously we're on the couch, so I'm reclined back, I'm chilling out. We've got the knob pillow. For those who can't see, no, not that sort of knob. It's a mixing desk with all the knobs and twisty bits, and the sliders. And so I'm just like chilling out on the couch, and then I look over and can see my leg on the camera. And I was like, oh, there's some sexy legs, and that just happens to be the moment that Aaron goes to air.
Let's go live, right?
A mic is always live.
Always.
They taught us in radio.
That's right.
I was never taught in radio.
And that's a bad sign because I taught him radio, but there you go.
No, you didn't teach me. You just go like, there's the mic, there's the knob, go.
That's teaching.
Yeah,
there you
okay,
go. That's
enough.
modern mentor. Here we go, guys. We're here for the greater wealth. And my word, mate, you have been on that computer firing away. Oh, you're typing like a pianist. You really were amazing.
It's not a very nice thing to call him.
We're going to talk about, obviously, look, the way to find your life. Well, no, to fund your life purpose, more to the point. Find it. That's always good. But you're going to need some money to make that happen, some happy tickets. And we often talk about the way that politics sort of is intertwined, right? What's going on in the world, mate? I have no idea.
There is huge breaking news. This is why I've been madly researching before going to air, because I wasn't planning to talk about this. But it's such a huge story, it can't be ignored.
Okay.
And that is that Egypt has officially become the newest member of the New Development Bank, NDP.
Right.
If you're wondering who that is, that's the International Development Bank of the BRICS organization.
Yes. Now, who builds the BRICS? Who is the member there?
So we've got Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa is forming the association of BRICS, which means that takes Egypt one step closer to joining the BRICS nations in their association. Now, put this in perspective because Saudi Arabia has also been showing interest in joining the BRICS nations.
Sure.
Now, why is this such a big deal? Well, what does Saudi Arabia produce? Oil. What does India produce? Lots of goods and services. What does China produce?
Everything.
Right?
Well, the cheap crap that breaks like 20 minutes later.
That's right.
Now, you couple this with what's going on in the world right now, okay? So we had earlier this year, what a year it's been, hey?
It's been a quiet one. Not.
What a year it's been. We had, of course, sanctions going on with the Ukraine-Russian war. We had basically Putin saying we're going to gold peg the ruble, right? So we're taking it back off a fiat currency and we're going to make it into a gold back currency.
Sure.
We're also going to sell our oil in rubles as opposed to what we call the petrodollar, the US dollar. All deals in oil have traditionally been done in the US dollar.
US dollar, yeah.
Okay. Now, what does that mean? If Saudi Arabia is going in wanting to get into the BRICS nations and Egypt is too, that means that they are the biggest producer of world's oil.
Sure.
Saudi Arabia, who's the biggest consumer of oil?
America.
China.
Really?
One of the biggest.
I thought it was China, but hey, I've been wrong.
Okay. It could be. We'll verify that. I recently heard it was China. We'll need to verify that.
I wouldn't be surprised because they're massively under the pump out at the moment, and that's the whole reason they build that big, massive dam.
Let's verify who's the biggest. But needless to say, China is a big consumer of oil. Okay, needless to say. So what you've got there is going. Okay, we're sidling up. And we've got nations wanting to get into that, doing the deals in relation to, hey, let's get outside of the US dollar. Now, of course, China's ambition is to be the #1 nation in the world. It's not really a secret. And they have been on the side watching how the United States has been going. Now, look at the United States at the moment. Inflation through the roof. Right? We've got interest rates, the Federal Reserve hiking up interest rate, hiking up interest rate, hiking up interest rate. You can't keep doing that. No. Why? Because all the debt that the nations acquired, the United States, it now has to pay it at higher interest rates. Okay,
you're paying back more.
All right, so every time they hike up another rate, it's like, ouch, we feel it. The taxpayers feel it. It's just a mess. It's a broken system in what's going on. Now, couple that with China's been looking at this and going, right, you think fiat's so good? We're going to start buying gold. And they've been massing gold for years now. And buying it and buying. Yes. Okay. So this is where it's very interesting because if you look at how Australia is positioned in this, Australia, Travis, you asked the question before the show, would they go to the BRICS? And I said, look, in terms of the international security, Australia's traditional way of forming military alliances with a nation that it shares values in has played out. It was the United Kingdom or England. And then, of course, in World War II, it moved to the United States. So
have a look at our politicians at the moment. They more align with China than what they do with Western society.
Right.
That's a good point.
That's another issue. But it's not clear cut for Australia to go jump ship. Oh, we'll go over to the BRICS and this sort of stuff. And, of course, there's been a lot of questions from a previous Prime Minister as where did the COVID start? And those have affected international relationships. Now, if you look at Australia's gold reserves, it's actually dropped this year. Okay, we had reserves in 2022 of, in 2021. Let's start with this year. We've got $3.301 billion worth of gold in our reserves, okay? Right. That's what it's been reported as, and that's a decrease from the previous $3.824 billion worth of gold that we had in September. Right. So we've lost that much just in 1 month, okay, from September to October.
Quick question, because I know a lot of people won't understand, is that a lot of gold or not much? Is there another country, say Singapore? Do you know how much Singapore's got, just so we can use it as a comparison?
Yeah,
we'll get that figure later.
Okay. Singapore would be very smart in gathering its gold. That would be my educated guess.
Because the thing that you brought up in another show is that Russia, China, India,
Brazil,
South Africa and Brazil were all hoarding gold as well.
Yes.
You brought that up when we first spoke about the BRICS on the show.
All right. So apparently in terms of Singapore, this is just off a business page, straighttimes.com.
Sure.
Singapore this is on the 30th. Oh, it's old news. All right. So in 2021, it increased its gold reserves by about 20%.
Does it say what's that in billion dollars?
It's a total about 26.3 tons of gold over May and June. So yeah, I'd have to dig a little bit further on that.
Okay.
Question on the fly.
By the way, Clint Franklin says hi in some very colourful language.
Oh, g'day, Clint. Thanks for being part of the show, mate. Don't know how colourful it is. Can't see the screen. But look, we're informed by Mr. Cartier over there that was colourful, so I'll take that on board.
So in relation to the fiat undermining, this is what's coming down is how strong is the US dollar now?
Sure,
right?
Sure.
Is it worth anything? If you keep increasing the interest rate, and the problem with the interest rates increases too, is that other nations go, oh, you've just strengthened your currency by doing so. Well, so even the playing field will do the same, right? So the nations around the world go, well, let's increase our interest rates. Let's increase our interest rate. Look what Australia's been doing, right? Japan, and all of them to get back onto a more even playing field.
Sure.
Did Japan increase their interest rates finally?
I believe it's.
What I was
I think
going to
it's been at
suggest,
zero interest rate for like 20 years or something.
what I'd suggest though, is you're printing all this money, you're devaluing the actual dollar itself. So are we just all nations? Are we just going to keep printing to move up to the same level? Is that what we're going to do? So we're on the same.
Can I go down conspiracy theory here?
Field here or what?
Well, when you've got one guy running most of the world banks, and that person wants to go to a digital currency worldwide,
sure.
Why wouldn't you destroy every country's currency?
Ooh, can't argue with that.
There's a conspiracy for you. No evidence on that, by the way. That's just my speculation.
I think what people are discounting here is how people are rising up around the world right now. I think that has surprised the globalists in relation to that uprising, and that's what's really, really exciting. I mean, you look what's going on in Brazil right now. That is hugely significant. I think they're about day 43 or something, and they're still rocking up and protesting. It puts us to shame.
Yeah, it does.
It really does. Nations who take their freedoms and democracies for granted. It puts the United States to shame. It puts Australia to shame.
Look, well, like I've often said throughout this entire thing, right? The greatest thing about this country is our layback, she'll be right attitude. It is also the worst thing about this country. The fact of the matter is, because of that attitude, we've sat back and we've let them walk all over us for such a long time. And then over the last 2.5 years, almost 3 years, whatever you want to call it, it's just increased. But people have been so used to being so apathetic. They're so used to that layback attitude. And it's business. It's business. Simple as that. And I looked at it the other way. I thought, hey, we're a country raised on criminals, right? That's where we're from. I thought we'd be, the old ratbags and scallywags, right? I thought we'd fight back. Boy, was I wrong. Like, really, it's surprised me how small percentage-wise, I mean, it's been massive, don't get me wrong, but percentage-wise, it's been smaller than I would have anticipated the fight back.
I think Australia's idol is its money. And I think that's part of the problem. If
I'm getting absolutely agrees with you as well. So it's great.
If I get my money in, if I own my property, if I've got my toys, boats, and the nice car and all that, she'll be right, mate. And I think that's the problem. It's an idol. The problem with idols is they can come down.
It's so true. Actually, funny enough, okay, little segue, but work with me here. Come this Thursday, I'll actually be co-driving and racing in a car, and literally the name of this at the Motorplex, it's a Targa event. The name of the team that I'm racing for is She'll Be Right Racing. Now, okay, look, you can look at it and you could go tongue in cheek. It's good on them that they're thinking that way. But again, it comes back to that great Aussie apathy and just it's, as I say, it's very, very sad that we don't fight for our rights. It's so entrenched in our personality as a nation to be, she'll be right about things. It's about time we stood up.
I think we're a young nation, and I think we've gone through, certainly in the 90s, I thought we went through a bit of an adolescence type identity in our nation. Like, we were now competing internationally on the sports front, and we can take on the big nations and do really well.
Sure.
We can do the America's Cup from the 80s, and take on the Yanks and this sort of stuff. And there was an adolescence in our consciousness, in our social consciousness, that we're legit, we're big now type of thing, right?
Oh, yeah.
I think it's having to change yet again as a nation now in our consciousness and go, hang on a second, we're not the irresponsible teenager anymore we once were. We can't become that. We have to now go, all right, take on some adult responsibilities. Where do we want to take this? What do we want for our children and our children's children?
I can't believe how insightful that is, actually. Right? You're a very smart man, but okay, you've hit the nail on the head, though. But the reality is that, like, honestly, there's always a bit of a joke, and obviously, look, I do, commercials and that sort of carry on, and writing a lot and copywriting and that. Anyway, there's a thing we all say in Australian, how we finish our sentence on an inflection. We're always asking a question at the end of our sentence, right? It's a very Australian thing to do that, right? It's built into our DNA as a country. And that is actually a lack of confidence, right? And it has been very much that. We've been this teenage country. We've kind of been going, oh, America, please like us. Oh, England, please respect us. What kind of carrying for 200 odd years. And I think you're right. I think in the 90s, I was flying high in the 90s. The 90s was great for me. And that's when I truly saw Australia at its peak. In my personal opinion, I've seen it go downhill ever since. It's just it's very interesting, because I think you're right. I think that we've kind of come past that, and I think we're not asking the question anymore. I don't think we're looking at Big Brother as much as we used to, but where have we gone? Like, have we become arrogant about it? Have we just become complacent about it?
Well, look at the way we've played international security, right?
We suck at international security.
We're dependent on our alliances with bigger countries, right? I remember remember the Dream Team was played in the Olympics, right? And I remember it was classic Shane Heal bad trashing the Dream Team. It was, I don't know if you remember that. It was so Australian. We all identify with, get them, this sort of stuff. And the Americans are going, what, you don't respect me, this sort of stuff.
Yep.
Right? That was our adolescence. It kind of typified as a nation our consciousness at that time.
I don't want to lose that. I love that smart ass.
I remember watching an interview with Shane Hill about that actual thing, and he was saying, like, we knew we'd get absolutely flogged, so our goal was to go out there and be as annoying as possible. So in America, they don't have zone defense. When they play NBA, it's all one-on-one. In Australia, in the Olympics, you're allowed zone defense. So they were always 2-on-1 the whole way through. And apparently it just annoyed the absolute living piss out of them. And it's that piss take attitude of Australians, which I think is hilarious. But just going back to what you're saying about before, how we're adolescents, we do not have the political leaders to take us to the next step where we can be a country taken seriously. Because come on, look, we've got Albanese. Before that, we had Scott Morrison.
Yep.
You had the kindergarten fighting from Rudd and Gillard.
Yeah.
Tony Abbott was another one. Like, can you actually see these guys being a warriors on the front line when you're looking at international politics?
Getting back to economics, let me put it to you this way. Why aren't our gold reserves bigger when we have so much gold in our nation, right? We've got very well-renowned, reputed mints. We have one here in West Australia.
Sure.
We have one over east. Why aren't we having bigger gold storages? Why aren't we having bigger silver storages? Why aren't we building what, we sell it all off, our natural resources.
It's very true.
Uncle Kenny, who's normally on the 6 Pack at 6, aired out 5 on hiatus at the moment, has always said that our natural resources belong to the Australian citizens.
Yes.
At no point will we ever ask, do we want to sell it all off? So he's a firm believer that we should be hoarding all our natural resources and saying, you know what, you want it, we'll loan it to you, but we want the money back and we want the resources back.
Here's a funny comment I made on good old Facebook about 2 hours ago, roughly. Every morning I get bombarded with Albanese, right? And to his credit, he has not banned me yet, and I always share the love with him, right? The reality is, no. Look,
Albanese or McGowan?
No. McGowan, actually, he banned me 6 years ago. Okay, so, we go back. So, but with Albanese, I will give him credit. He has not banned me yet. But today, I open up the old Facebook, and here's old Albanese, banging on about the fact that they're recalling Parliament so they can make these changes to effectively, to deal with the crisis of energy, right? Okay, to keep those prices down, kind of thing, before Christmas, right? What an absolute load of. Now he goes on further to say, basically it's because of Ukraine, right?
Oh, shit.
Yes. Now, my comment was, and I can't remember my exact words, but effectively, the reality is Australia has everything it needs to be energy independent. There is absolutely no need for us to have any dependence on anyone else in the world, right? So, Ukraine, as an example, and it's not Ukraine, it's a NATO war, but let's not go there at the moment. But for the NATO war, that has absolutely nothing to do with this country, and he's trying to peddle this. Now, again,
Aren't we a member of NATO?
Yeah, yes, we are. We're fighting ourselves. No, that's a joke. But okay, again, it comes down to strength. Now, we've talked about leaders without strength. Albanese is an absolute wet blanket. He is absolutely embarrassing to me. I wouldn't, he's the kind of guy when you shake his hands, I'm sure it's damp and it's limp.
No,
right?
no, it's baby oil from the tired massage parlour.
Exactly. Good one. Slippery sucker. But again, leadership is so important, right? Okay. And why Australia keeps putting forward these weak leaders who
I can tell you exactly why.
Tell me.
Because the power brokers within Labor and Liberals do captain's picks. They pick who will be the leader of the party. They'll pick who is the biggest ass-kissing but yes man that they can put in there. And that's who we end up with.
Well, I'm not going to be pro-Dutton by any stretch of imagination here because I don't really know enough about Dutton, right? But I look at him as a product. And he is about as appealing as I don't know, like
Voldemort?
Yes. Yes. Right. Marketing point of view, he is absolutely horrible to look at. He sounds terrible, that sort of character. Now, he could be a man of amazing substance and strength. I wouldn't know.
No,
because
the
the
marketing
marketing
put him on a robe and like give him a stick and send him off to war.
That's right. We are not, unfortunately, the marketing machine, and this goes back, you can look at US, you can look at, Clinton all those years ago, a man with absolutely no substance, but he had sex appeal, so therefore they put him forward. Look, the brokers behind the scenes have far, far, far too much power. And the crossover between the politics here and obviously the money markets, they're just, they're milk on your wheat picks, right? They're making it go soggy.
Okay. So what's the solution then?
Well, I'm so
First
glad
of all,
you asked because I just
cap on political spending during elections. Put a cap on political donations. Full stop. And restrict how much money a political party and how many assets a political party can actually own.
Okay. Problem with that. Then the richest man or woman, therefore, just goes up and throws money at it, and
Well,
therefore
they can't.
Well, hang on. Their own personal money, not their donations. Right.
Because there'll be a cap on how much you can actually spend during elections.
Yep. Happy with that. Yeah. That would work, right? I thought you were just donations
just cap the whole entire lot. Yep. Donations, political spending.
Yep.
So that was the first one. And also the cap on political advertising outside of elections.
Oh.
Because how often do you get bombarded? Like I read the local newspaper and I think the first page, third page, seventh page, 15th page, and every second page after that is a Labor ad.
Sure. Yeah.
And
Labor,
the local newspaper.
Yeah, Labor are the worst for it. We all know that. They just absolutely just bombard you with it. Every single day I get at least 10 ads coming from Victoria, from old Chairman Dan, right? Okay. We're here in Western Australia. He's trying to influence the reach of Edge. Obviously, that's what he's trying to do because it's not through my personal one, it's through the Edge one. You're absolutely right. That's one way you could get firmer, stronger,
because you get politicians who are there because they want to be there, not because it's a massive pay packet.
How dare you steal the words out of my mouth? There you go.
Suck it.
He's using my beautiful microphone. Now he's stealing my words too. But all right, there we go.
I have to say, got to get a shout out to this mic. It just sits perfectly. It's gorgeous. It's beautiful. It looks great on the camera.
It's mine from my personal collection, but that's okay. No
we
worries.
need a stand about there coming this way.
It's beautiful. And it's the real thing too. It's not a faker. Now,
Next will be asking for a makeup artist before the show.
Someone will give him a massage as he's going through.
I'm not Albanese.
Now,
Sleazy.
we've gone off topic here.
We have.
Let's bring it back.
Overtime.
Let's bring it back.
Okay.
Oh, hang on. Let's look at the time. That's probably a damn good thing. Shall we take a break? Have a quick little break and come back? Yeah? You guys happy with that?
But before we have a break, we need to hear from our people who pay the bills.
Edge Entertainment Australia. We bring on
Sideways?
X Factor. Edge Entertainment MCs and DJs for your wedding, corporate, or birthday celebration. Over 30 years experience in live events, giving crowds the time of their life. There really is just one choice. Edge Entertainment Australia.
Another Saturday night that I ain't got nobody. I got some money cause I just got paid. Now how I wish I had someone to talk to. I'm in an awful way. Dig this. I got in town a month ago. I seen a lot of girls since then. If I could meet them, I could get them. But as yet I haven't met them. That's why I'm in the shape I'm in. Here another Saturday night, and I ain't got nobody. I got some money cause I just got paid. Now how I wish I had someone to talk to. I'm in an awful way. Now, another fella told me he had a sister who looked just fine. Instead of being my deliverance, she had a strange resemblance to a cat named Frankenstein. Here another Saturday night, and I ain't got nobody. I got some money cause I just got paid. Now how I wish I had some shit to talk to. I'm in an awful way, yeah. It is another weekend, I ain't got nobody. Man, if I was back home, I'd be swinging 2 chicks on my arm. Oh yeah. Listen to me, huh? It's hard on a fella when he don't know his way around. If I don't find me a honey to help me spend my money, I'm gonna have to blow this town. Here it's another Saturday night, and I ain't got nobody. I got some money cause I just got paid. Now how I wish I had some chick to talk to. I'm in an awful. Everybody sang another Saturday night, and I ain't got nobody. I got some money cause I just got paid. Now how I wish I had some more.
It's Edge Radio Australia. We're doing the Greater Wealth thing here. I'm not going to turn Travis's mics on because let's face it, it's always going to be something inappropriate coming out. I'll do it a little while. We've just played another Saturday night, a more like a bit of a, let's just call it a little Motown, just get us rolling on that. Beside me, I, of course, got Derek Whittaker. Derek is right now busy man coming up with lots of information. Look, I'm going to throw it back to you, mate. You've been on there. You got some more info from stuff we were talking about before the break. Let's get into it.
Well, okay. Let's go a little part of the different world now in terms of central banks and that sort of stuff.
Okay.
There's a story that's come out from the postmillennial.com that says that Nigeria is going to limit cash withdrawals to $225 a week US to try to stop kidnapping epidemic. Okay, so what it's saying is that the Central Bank of Nigeria is going to be limiting that withdrawal to 100,000 nairas, which is their local currency, or the equivalent of $225 US per week. And they reckon that's to curb people away from basically kidnapping. Now, how do they do that? Well, they want citizens to move away from paper money and use digital payments, which means that they can then track it better because they say the kidnapping epidemic is harder for criminals to collect cash ransom.
Sure.
The criminals are likely to be hard by the new regulations, including kidnappers whose victim ransom payments will now have to go through official channels, thus making it harder to circumvent authorities. Now, this is where the plot gets thicker. Now, is kidnapping an issue in Nigeria?
Can I want to jump in first. Do you think a person's just they're that low and they're that much of a scumbag that they've stolen a child and put it up for ransom? Do you really think they give a shit that the government's not going to give you cash?
That was going to be my point. Okay. Do you think that restricting people's withdrawals from banks is going to stop kidnapping?
No.
That was going to be my question.
Cool.
If you look at the data here, all right, according to this article, from July 2021 to June 2022 alone, the amount of money that kidnappers collected was 1.46 million US, all right? We'll just keep it US dollars for the show. The total amount demanded was over 6.5 billion. Now, during that period, 500 incidents of kidnapping were reported involving nearly 3,500 people. Over 500 others were killed in kidnapping-related incidences. Now, I go back to this. Now, there's a little bit of information I want to get back to on this article that shows the underbelly of this. But I wanted to verify what kind of crime actually goes in Nigeria. There's a great website out there, ocindex.net, that can show you the crime indexes of all nations. And Nigerians...
What fun reading.
Yeah.
Oh, no, this is quite interesting.
It's pretty awful. Nigeria human trafficking networks are infamous, primarily those engaged in sex trafficking and domestic exploitation operating in West Africa and Europe. Right? So it's linked to Europe. Nigerian networks also engage in labor trafficking, particularly of children who are exploited in domestic servitude, street vending, mining, and farming all across West Africa. And other forms include baby factories, the recruitment of women and girls for prostitution, and widespread forced domestic servitude. And the networks involved in transitional sexual and labor trafficking to Arab countries, particularly Saudi Arabia.
Gross.
Furthermore, the military has been known to informally recruit underage boys as vigilantes, a practice also known as non-state armed groups using child soldiers. So, why is there such horrible crime?
Sure.
I'll tell you.
There's a demand for it.
Poverty. Poverty is the main reason, because these people are desperate, right, to put food on their tables.
Well, I don't know why they're short of money. There's Nigerian princes trying to give it away all the time.
Yeah, the Nigerian prince is like all the money in the country is like locked up in these hotel rooms where there's a dead Nigerian prince because they couldn't give it away.
That's right.
No. Interesting thing there. You said they were child trafficking for mining in all the West African countries. Now, the Republic of Congo, which is notorious for child miners out of the cobalt mines.
Did anyone say cobalt? What about lithium? Did you hear lithium?
Lithium's in there. Cobalt's a really nasty one.
Yeah.
So for all the really rich yappies out there that drive those Teslas and those other electric vehicles, maybe just stop buying electric vehicles. Then there won't be a demand for child labor to get the lithium and cobalt.
Yeah. Look, you're right. I mean, look, poverty obviously
go back to V8 LS motors. Like, hell yes.
Poverty leads, obviously. You won't get me arguing about that. But poverty obviously does lead to crime, okay? Because poverty leads to lack of options. You know,
people get desperate.
Desperation. Spot on.
You do what you have to do to survive. It's as simple as that.
Absolutely.
So this is where it gets interesting for Nigeria, okay? In relation to so my questions, I'm questioning the whole thing of, do you think that restricting people's ATM withdrawals to that per week is going to stop kidnapping in this nation?
No, that is clever marketing to push on a digital agenda.
So look at this. Recent data shows 85% of cash in Nigeria exists outside financial institutions. Okay, so look at the money supply, guys.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. With 40 million adults in the country doing business without a bank account. 40 million adults don't use a bank account. That says to me that they're out of their system.
Sounds like California with all the Mexican migrants.
So this is the issue. I don't think the issue is
no.
whatsoever.
It's taking an opportunity. It's a marketing exercise. They're taking the opportunity to go, because everybody hates a kidnapper, right? Everybody hates child abuse, theoretically. Well, a lot of people seem to be right into it. Family court, but like, okay.
I was going to say surround politicians, but
but okay, honestly, but by canvassing people's, feelings and passion about hating child exploitation, right? It gives a really good excuse. It's another reason to go to a digital currency, right? We're taking away from those horrible people.
No, you're not.
No, you're not. You're really
just have a look at Venezuela. Like those people were absolutely desperate. The Venezuelan ruble, I think it is, or the rupiah,
sure.
Whatever their currency was, went to absolute poop. Like it was terrible. So I think it was northern Venezuela, to get a haircut, it was like one flake of gold. So everyone went to genuine gold for transactions.
Right.
Another part of Venezuela went to the US dollar instead of using the current dollar. So if the banking system says, right, you're not allowed to use this form of money, they're not going to put all their money in the bank. They're just going to go to something else.
Sure, they are. Absolutely.
So maybe
what we've got as a society, and I think in Australia we're so entrenched with it they don't see it, but it's starting to rise up, and it's the middleman, okay, in terms of transactions, right. So Travis gave me some money on the weekend, right, which was really nice of him.
Yeah.
How did he do it? Via a middleman.
Okay.
The bank. He sent funds from his bank to my bank.
Yep.
To be into my account.
He wouldn't accept the veggies out of the garden.
How rude! How rude!
And I think this is the thing. Now, I'm not anti-bank, but my concerns are this, right? As we go further and further down this path, is control and privacy. Because
No
if they can, Kanye West went on social media to say, I'm a billionaire, and if they can freeze my bank accounts, they can do it to you, right? So whether you're into Kanye or not, or Ye or whatever he's called, that just is a highlight. Hey, guys, wake up. Wake up what's going on here. People don't like what I'm saying.
Yeah.
My freedom of speech is being censored, and now they're trying to freeze my bank accounts. When we saw this with PayPal recently,
Yes, we did.
who were taking a cut and saying, if you speak out against views that we don't agree with, we're going to charge you $2,500 for every offense. That was never in the terms and conditions agreement when people signed up. So business said, fine, forget you. Boy, do they get back in line.
Yep, very quickly.
Well, have a look at another one, Canada.
Yes.
If you went and took diesel down to the truck drivers, the government literally froze all your bank accounts. So
I'll tell you right now, I'm not big on the old being a vigilante, but I'll tell you right now, I would not shed a tear. In fact, I think I'd smile a little bit if they hung Trudeau in the middle of the town square. I think that man has been such a quintessential symbol of everything that's wrong. And I think that sometimes symbols, well, you know what? They're happy, the left, going around and destroying statues everywhere, left, right, and center. Yes, yeah. So why not? Why not? Maybe not be so harmful. Maybe just knock down his statues. But the reality is that man is a great symbol. Or you look at New Zealand, as well, with Bucky Beaver,
the guy that runs the country.
That's the one. Prime Minister Bulge, Ardern. Yep. Yeah, Ardern. Look, these people.
Sorry, Derek.
These people have been so destructive to their own people. The people they're supposed to represent. That's my point, right? That really, I think,
and that just goes back to my point I made earlier today. We need to cap political spending, how much politicians earn, and how much people are allowed to donate to politicians.
Sure.
Because that way, if it's not a financial benefit for a person to be actually in Parliament, they're doing it because they genuinely want to represent. I think you'll start having people in there and they start seeing it not as a business or an opportunity. They see it as a chance to actually do the right thing.
Yeah.
So
I think the banks are concerned about becoming a dinosaur in the cryptocurrency age.
Well, they are. You might be right.
That's the concern. And what they probably don't want is direct transaction between you and I in terms of goods and services and that sort of stuff. And that's what their concern is. So there's a push to go, hey, let's get government regulation involved here so that we can then stay in the game.
Let me ask a question I don't know the answer to. Okay. Well, years ago with Bartercard, did the banks step in and try and push, and lobby government to try and shut that down?
The courts tried to. There was
so yes.
Class. No. Well, they got off. It's not they got off. They didn't do anything wrong.
You see, this is the other interest in all of this, right? Because of the taxation department, right? The taxation wants to control and monitor who's getting what transactions verify what their income is and what they can tax them for. So they are using and utilizing the banks for that purpose.
Yeah.
And that's why they want it digital.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Look,
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No. Well, you're 100% right.
Yeah. But I mean, look, this goes back even further. Okay. Look, we go back to it was 2000 when the old GST came in, right? And the way that they went about that, a lot of that was to get away from this was the thing they sold us. Gets rid of the black market, gets rid of the cash society. Well, this is just the next step as far as I'm concerned.
The implementation of the GST was an absolute dog's dinner. The one that was supposed to get rid of like stamp duty and all that sort of stuff was actually a 15% GST.
Yep.
A lot of those other taxes were they negotiated down to 10% and only certain taxes were supposed to disappear and those taxes are still around. So,
well, that's right. Or they just change it to the word excise or bloody, something.
A levy, Medicare levy.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just waiting for a COVID levy to come out.
Oh, look, it's days away, I'm sure.
Yeah. No, the problem is they just, I think the government needs to there should be guidelines on how much debt the country is allowed to go to. Giving the government an unlimited checkbook to rack up debt for our kids, I think that's just criminal what they've done.
But it's also fundamentally unnecessary. There's a famous photo that floats around and says, look, everything in this picture was made in Australia, right? It's literally,
When 1970s?
Yes.
Yeah.
The 70s. Exactly right. It was in the 70s. Now, if you did that, it was China. Oh, Bangladesh. Hang on.
Oh, India.
Vietnam. Boom. There's just nothing made in this country anymore. And there is absolutely
and you know what's funny? Most of the people aren't made in this country either.
No, true. I've been saying that for years. I've been saying Australian kids are made in China these days.
No. Mine are Vietnam.
Where were your kids born though?
Australia, but the wife's Viet.
Yeah, exactly.
was
You know
born
what?
in
She
Vietnam.
chooses to be in this beautiful country, therefore she's an
So,
Australian.
to her credit, she's actually full Australian citizen.
Well, there you go.
Yeah,
And I tell you what, no,
the ceremony is an absolute joke. by
we
the way.
could go down that path, but I'll say very, very carefully, not carefully, very concisely. The fact of the matter is, if you love this country, I don't care where you've come from. If you come and you choose to be part of this society and generally contribute to the society, not just come and use it, whatever, you're as Aussie as they come. I don't care if you're one generation or 5 generations.
Sorry, I hate to get political here. I've got to quote Pauline on this one.
Please do.
The place you call home is where you're prepared to die.
Spot on.
And whether you're a citizen or not, don't care. But if you're prepared to die in Australia, I think you're Australian.
Yeah, I mean, I'm first generation Australian. My dad's not born in this country, and he fled persecution for the colour of his skin. So yeah,
I still find it hilarious. You're Indian.
Leave me alone. I mean, my people have been persecuted. Now, I reckon on that front, we should take a break, boys and girls. As the girls just walk in, we'll have a little break, have a drink. You want a coffee? I'm on the water stuff. We'll be back in just a tick. It's Edge Radio Australia, Greater Wealth.
Your fur baby deserves the very best. Natural treats, baked fresh, not full of nasty allergy-inducing chemicals. Ingredients for a healthy tummy and lifestyle. Your fur baby deserves Bicky Treats. Click the link on the Edge Radio Australia website or bickytreats.com.au.
There came a night leaving fear behind, shadows around the ground. Oh, nobody knew where to find him. No evidence was found. I'm never coming back. They couldn't cry, and I believe him. Well, he never meant to do anything wrong. It's gonna get worse if they wait too long. Billy, don't you lose my number? 'Cause you're not anywhere that I can't find you. Oh, now, Billy, don't you lose my number? 'Cause you're not anywhere that I can't find you. Oh, no. Searching through the day and through the night, they wouldn't stop till they found him. They didn't know him and they didn't understand. They never asked him why. Get out of my way. They couldn't shout, then a blinding light. All I could see was him running down the street, out of the shadows and into the night. Now, Billy, don't you lose my number? 'Cause you're not anywhere that I can't find you. Oh, now, Billy, don't you lose my number? 'Cause you're not anywhere that I can't find you. Oh, don't give up. Keep running, keep hiding. Don't give up. Billy, if you know you're right, don't give up. You know that I am on your side. Don't give up. I'm Billy. You better run for your Now, Billy, don't you lose my number? 'Cause you're not anywhere that I can't find you. Oh, now, Billy, don't you lose my number? 'Cause
Edge Radio Australia, doing the greater wealth thing here as we do every Monday from 1. Derek Whitaker, the absolute whiz-bang specialist about all this stuff, mate. Educator extraordinaire when it comes to finances. To my left, mate. Thanks for being part of today's show.
Thank you for having me again.
Thank you for being today's show, quite frankly. Travis Carter, thanks for showing up. No, silence filled the room. All right, cricket's here.
Literally, because we were talking about classic catches.
We were.
Oh, Derek dropped his laptop.
No,
It's
I didn't
okay,
drop
so
it.
now
I
he-
record it.
That's right.
caught
That's
it.
right.
It was a slip.
Yeah.
It wouldn't lose much. It's just an apple.
That's right. Exactly.
Just bruise a little bit. No, seriously. Like when I used to DJ, I used to run a MacBook Air, and this dude decided to go crowd surfing on the table.
Oh, nice.
And 2 Technic 1200s, mixing desk, my laptop, everything went flying across the room. The bottom corner of the screen bent over, kept on working, didn't skip a beat.
Wow.
There you go.
So,
All
yeah.
right.
The
Right.
Technic, the arms on the
1200s?
tables and stuff, so I had to replace them. So
There you go. Finance got nothing to do with turntables. Let's do it.
Let's turn the tables to something else
Oh,
now.
welcome to Segway School.
Not really. I mean, we're going on about government-issued cryptos and this
Yes,
sort of stuff.
please.
Now, Australia is toying and flirting with the idea that the Reserve Bank open to digital currency, but wary of demand for it. According to a speech that Dr. Jones spoke about in terms...
does anyone else say Barbie girl? Dr. Jones. Sorry, Aqua.
Brad Jones, assistant governor for this, was looking at it, and he basically, in summary, according to news.com.au, the Reserve Bank is unconvinced there is a case for it. It's attracting a lot of interest from industry, but he's saying a lot of public interest case would first need to emerge. There's pros and cons for it. This is where I think it always gets a bit funny, is it basically saying that the risk of physical disruptions in money and payment services is most pressing for low-income countries with limited capacity and that they're prone to natural disasters.
Right.
That said, recent extreme weather events in Australia remind us that existing electronic and physical cash distribution networks can be severely disrupted on occasion. Now, I look at that and go, whatever, because, you know, think about it for a minute. If there is weather disruptions and the whole grid goes down, you can't do a cryptocurrency transfer because there's no internet, there's no electricity.
That's
So
right.
If
that
the
argument
internet
is
and
just
the power's down. Half the roads are probably gone too.
yeah.
Yep.
That kind of argument that it's the best for climate change. No, anytime climate change comes into money, I go, there's an issue for control.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm so glad you say that.
Because I think that, you know, physical cash, physical gold and silver, you can take it with you in an emergency. In fact, I remember hearing one guy who was talking about, lives in the cyclone area of the United States.
Right.
And he was talking about there's nothing better than having good old fashioned cash, because in a time of emergency, all those ATMs are down and everybody's trying to line up, get cash out of those ATMs, and either they're not working or everybody's pulled the money out of them already and they can't get replenish those supplies. So he's saying having cash rather than electronics is better.
Yeah.
So, you know, this is what you've got to consider here when you hear this. But the fact that they're flirting with the idea sends alarm bells to me.
I just, whenever someone says the Australian government is flirting, I immediately think of Albanese going to a massage place. Like, it's just wrong. But like talking to Stephen is another one who's very sets himself ready that if he's got to flee, he's ready to go at a moment's notice.
Stephen
Pettis. So he's got a heap of jewelry that's like pure gold, stuff like that. He just put it on, goes, carries a heap of cash around with him as well.
just look like Mr. T and off you go, right?
Well, why not? There's nothing to stop you from carrying jewelry.
Sure.
Like, a lot of countries will have restrictions on bullion.
Gotcha. Okay.
So yeah.
It's clever.
So that's
way
one
around.
way, having multiple ways to get out of where you are, making sure you're safe, especially if you're living in, let's say, northern Queensland or northern WA, where cyclones and flooding is a genuine issue. Having a way to get yourself and your family out is very, very important. And you can't do that if all your money's tied up digitally.
Very, very interesting point, mate. Yeah, well, look, I'm a big believer in keep the old cash economy going. It's as simple as that. And I think that, look, anyone who is wanting bigger government, who wants tighter restrictions and control in their lives.
Go to North Korea.
Yeah, exactly. There's a country there right waiting for you.
Look, the trouble is with crypto at the moment is it's getting a bad rap with the whole FTX thing that's been going on.
Sure.
Okay, and Sam Friedman and those cryptos being taken off an exchange and moved to a private company. Now, a lot of the crypto guys say you should never leave your crypto on an exchange. You should put it in a private wallet for that very reason. Some crypto coins, as I understand it, cost money to move them into a wallet. Every time you do a transaction, you lose a little bit of that coin.
Gotcha.
But with the bank, you
pay
get
for the transaction.
You get that anyway with your monthly banking fees.
Right.
Yep.
So what I'm saying is you want to minimize the amount of times the crypto's moved around. You want to park it somewhere and leave it there.
Yeah.
That's my point. That being said, there are others who are arguing that this is why we need more regulation to prevent these kind of occurrences happening.
Okay.
We've had that discussion in previous episodes before, but it's always a dangerous slippery slope because the whole essence of crypto was to create the privacy, to create a decentralized means of exchange. That was the whole heart of it. And I think we forget that in these debates about crypto, whether that is good or bad. Now, also, crypto's had a huge year because of the losses. It's lost, like Bitcoin's lost 70% of its value in this year.
But that was kind of expected.
Yeah, kind of expected or whatever, but regardless, if you bought it at the peak, expecting it to go to 100,000, like a lot of people were predicting crypto to go to 100,000 US, it'll go to 100,000. And what is it now, 23,000 or something?
I thought it was like 18.
Yeah.
But then on the flip side of that, talk about the people who brought Facebook out the peak. So does that mean you have to now start regulating the share market to a greater extent? No, every time you invest, you've got to be prepared for losses.
Absolutely.
So,
I'm just putting in context of it's had a major headlines this year.
Sure.
But it's the means of removing that electronically and just taking it away highlights the very problem of a centralized token. Right? Because if you can put a government issued token in someone's wallet, you can take it out just as quickly and restrict what they can buy or sell for those who haven't been hearing our previous episodes on this stuff.
So here's a happy medium because a lot of investing, purchasing and all that is all about negotiations. So the government wants one thing, we want another one. So why can't we have regulated tokens or currencies and totally deregulated currencies like the black market currencies? So if, let's say, a creator...
Let's not call it black market. Let's just call it what it is because it has a connotation that it's illegal.
It's just untraced. So an untraced, untracked crypto, sort of like the DuckDuckGo of Google versus Google where every keystroke is tracked. So if you love the idea of a super regulated digital currency, then great, go with it. And you can pick this currency, this one, that one, and that's the Australian government one, and that's the Thailand government one, and that's the USA government one. But if you want it totally deregulated, where your privacy is absolute paramount, you can go to the Bitcoins, the Ethereums and all that sort of stuff that are totally deregulated.
I think it comes back to what will people be paid in? They go to a job. What's that employer going to pay them in?
Sure.
Right.
Yep.
And that's why it's such a big thing because some people may want exactly what you're saying, but they're not being paid. Their income is not, it's on a centralized system as opposed to a decentralized system. So it's not as easy just to do that. If you're a business owner, you probably have a bit more choice in the matter as opposed to that. And
well, there's already a system for that.
What's interesting about this is you put it in historical context, right? Because we've been talking about fiat and we've been talking about what Abraham Lincoln did in the Civil War was fascinating as far as moving away from the currency of its time. He issued what they called greenbacks back then, okay? And he paid the soldiers greenbacks at that time. He was concerned would it be accepted, and he was told by his advisors, look, if it's government issued, it will be as good, good as gold. And so he paid for this, they could use that to settle taxation debts and, of course, buy and sell amongst each other.
Sure.
Of course, what happened to Abraham Lincoln? It cost him his life.
It did.
In many of this because he issued a different currency. And putting that in context, it's been fascinating. Somebody highlighted this I was researching this in the week. There was like a petro war. We've been talking about the BRIC nations in this show about how they've been wanting to deal with oil in their own currency that they create. Look what's happened prior to that. We had Gaddafi who wanted to basically do it in dinar. Sell oil in dinar. We also had Saddam Hussein who wanted to do it outside of US dollars. And I think it was in euros he wanted to do it in.
Oh, really?
And both of them ended up
they had weapons of mass destruction.
They did.
So,
of course.
So
That was a joke, by the way, people.
we look at this. There is a war going on in terms of control and battle, a psychological war going on, and I don't think a lot of people are aware of it.
I don't think wars are well. I think it's time we
No, it
accepted
is.
that wars are not fought anymore with guns and knives, so to speak.
No, it's economy and cybersecurity.
Spot on. Yeah.
There's a really great website. I can't remember. It's in my search histories
Oh,
where you can actually look up all the successful and non-successful major cybersecurity attacks that happen every year.
sure.
In 2020, there was something like 20,000 successful major cybersecurity breaches in Australia alone.
It's a very, very
it's
big
insane.
deal. Yeah. Look, this is modern warfare. It's as simple as that. Yeah. I mean, never want to look at your search history. That's important.
No, the weird stuff is in incognito, so you won't say it's okay.
Cool. I'm glad we've covered that. But it's true. Like, okay, the world has moved on. Okay, and that's why the old military industrial complex is kind of almost foolish in a lot of ways, because they're developing all the weapons and that kind of thing. When, okay, let's face the reality. I mean, right now, China is winning the world war because they've controlled the economies.
There's always going to be because once you take over someone's economy, you still got to occupy the land if you want to expand your borders. So there's always going to be a demand for actual physical soldiers, ships.
Oh, look, I don't doubt that. I'm
stuff
just
like
saying that currently, let's face it, the way warfare is being fought now, and those who are being successful are they're not lifting a bloody a weapon to do so, or certainly not a gun.
Oh, it's keyboards.
Bloody keyboard warriors.
Yeah.
I think the interesting thing going into 2023 is to contemplate this and think about this, which is something I came across this morning in my studies, and that is the concept of how can we secure our supply chains?
Yeah.
Right. On a personal level and also on a national level. What are the supply chains we need to secure? I think that's been highlighted with the whole COVID over the last 2 years.
Sure.
We've seen shipping supply lines break down. We've seen the migration of business moving from traditional sources to other alternative sources. And I think for yourself, it's an interesting concept to kind of contemplate and go, all right, what happens if things occur that I don't necessarily agree with? How do I keep feeding my family? How do I keep transacting between fellow citizens so that I can thrive and grow wealth at the same time and you retain freedom?
Look, it's what, March will be 3 years we've been living in this little COVID crisis, and I think that so many of us have noticed now that we need to literally start playing outside the game, and also look at those things like passive income, all those other issues, and supply chains for ourselves personally. If anything, there's a lot of positives out of this. Let's face it, people are looking outside. They're not being as dependent. I know it's actually funny enough. I was in the supermarket yesterday, okay, and there wasn't the brand of one particular thing that I'm used to buying. It's not there anymore. It's just simply not there. Now, in my lifetime, that really hasn't been an issue. You just go and you get it, and that's it. Now you've got to go, okay, well, I've got to look at the alternatives. Now, that's a silly example, but it's a very real example at the same time. I think right across the board, we need to look at the things that we've been doing and the complacency of knowing that we can go get petrol, we can go get gas, we can go get this, and maybe start looking at our alternatives and taking good old autonomy, I guess, but but taking responsibility of our own actions and our own supply chains.
It's really funny you actually brought up where to get fuel from, because I was reading an article on the weekend about a town in England somewhere where they're restricting people to 100 trips per year outside of that district. Right. Otherwise you cop a fine because it's a climate emergency.
Wow.
I'll get the article and send it to you.
Yeah, that's a bit special.
But yeah, just going back to the supply chain things, I was talking to a former naval officer who lives in my street, and they were saying 2 submarines will lock down Australia. You got one off the west coast, and one off the Queensland coast, and you cannot get a ship into Australia.
Oh, yeah. Well, this is our unique situation.
And
our
yet
placement
we
in the world.
have a minuscule navy.
Yeah, okay.
And we're an island nation.
Yep. Yeah,
it's just, and this is going back to what I was saying before. Our political leaders are totally inept. So we're an island nation,
Mhm.
yet we do not have a navy big enough to support ourselves.
Well, again, complacency, right? That's whole. It's all right. The Americans will save us. The Americans will save us.
Won't.
Well,
You
no,
got
that's the
Biden, you got
attitude,
a
though.
robot.
That's
leading
it.
our
Gee, I
allies.
tell you what, you're talking down robots there when you say that. But look, yeah, but that's been the attitude for how long, right? Like literally since World War II. And that, I don't know if anyone's noticed, that was a while ago.
Yeah,
was a
but
while
look
ago.
at the size of our population back there.
Yeah.
Like now we've actually got a half decent population. We can actually, a lot of the kids that are causing a lot of juvenile offences, send them to the Navy, give them a qualification, give them some discipline, and boost the Navy numbers so we can actually defend ourselves if shit really hits the fan. Because going back again to the cybersecurity side of things, if you can't get in like technological wise, like you can't hack them in, just go blow up one of their power exchanges. Then you'll be able to get in.
Now we've got a minute to go on the show, so I'm going to throw to you, mate. Jack, what are your thoughts?
Sounds to me like, come back to the original point. It sounds to me like Australia needs to come out of adolescence and take on adult responsibility and social consciousness. We all have to do that. For ourselves. We can't just rely on others to provide for us. So how are you going to move forward on that? And I think that's something we need to think about.
Easy. Make sure you put the right person in authority in.
Absolutely.
If the person who's like leading the Labor or Liberals aren't there, do not vote for them.
That's
actually vote for someone who you believe is actually going to secure your future. And
use your initiative as well. Okay, stand up. Don't just follow. Stand up. The most important and most powerful word in the world at the moment is why. Ask the questions. Ask the questions. You know, simple as that. All right. With that, gents, it's been a pleasure as always. We will see you next Monday for another edition. And my word, people are just waiting on the edge of their seats for this. It's a greater wealth here on Edge Radio Australia.
Nature's medicine. That's what your body craves. For thousands of years, ancient Chinese medicine has been bringing wellness to our world. The National Herb Doctor. Personal Chinese medicine and acupuncture services. Search for us by name online, nationalherbdoctor.com.